CBS News senior national security analyst Fran Townsend was Homeland Security Advisor to President George W. Bush. Fran, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie.
So here we have a new discussion about enhanced interrogation. On the one hand, the president said within the last 24 hours he talked to people who said, yes, in fact, it does work. Torture does work. On the other hand, you have General Mattis, who says that there are other ways that are better. And you have Mike Pompeo, the new CIA director, suggesting that he's not in favor of some of these things. What is the president going to do?
Well, you know, it's a good question, Charlie. First and foremost, we ought to remind our viewers, enhanced interrogation techniques are not legal. So regardless of whatever the president thinks of torture, enhanced interrogation techniques, he can't implement it without Congress.
Let's understand what we mean by enhanced interrogation.
Sure, waterboarding is the technique most, I think, Americans think of when they think enhanced interrogation techniques, torture.
Is sleep denial enhanced interrogation?
You know, what you got to look back to is the Army Field Manual. If it's permitted by the Army Field Manual, it's legal and you can do it. If it's not in the Army Field Manual, it is most likely prohibited by the legislation passed by Congress. And so I think that we should, to the extent this upsets and worries Americans, our allies around the world, it's not legal now and cannot be reinstituted or begun anew without new legislation.
And there's no support in Congress.
None.
There's no support in Congress for
on either side of the aisle
law on this issue.
Right.
There's also a leaked document
led by Senator McCain too.
Correct.
There is also a leaked document that the Trump administration is considering opening up these black sites where these enhanced interrogation or torture occurred. What's the purpose of sending these messages on these things coming from the President of the United States?
You know, it's interesting. One, even the leaked documents, it's not clear that they're leaked from the current administration. Of course, there are some reports that this goes back to an old Romney draft and changes, you know, these black sites. The other thing about black sites is you have to find countries that are willing to host them. And by the way, there have been lawsuits, there have been, you know, governments toppled over having hosted these. So it's not clear you could even find, if you wanted to go back to it, find countries that would be willing to host them.
Let's talk, Fran, about building the wall in Mexico, which we're now learning we would have to pay for first and then get reimbursed. Mexico has made it clear, oh, no, that's not going to happen. Right. But is there anything to suggest that building a wall at Mexico will make America safer?
Look, Gail, I think it's clear that the more complicated you make it for people to enter illegally, the more discouraging it is, right? Fewer people will cross. And it is true to say that every nation's got the right to control its own borders. But I mean, I will tell you, in 2006, a decade ago, when the law passed by Congress was sort of forced on the Bush administration, President Bush signed it into law, we found it to be very difficult. So we shouldn't assume that any wall is going to be purely bricks and mortar. You're going to use technology. You're going to find ways to make it, to discourage people from trying to enter illegally.
Hiring more security guards?
Absolutely. That's part of what President Trump has said. They're going to increase the size of Border Patrol, and that will certainly be part of this plan.
And extreme vetting is another thing, indeed.
We don't really know what that is, Charlie. You know, I think President Obama also had a stand down in terms of issuing visas and allowing refugees in to strengthen the vetting process. And I think that what President Trump is doing is similar to what President Obama did. He's going to look at the process and he's going to increase the vetting to the extent that you're able to.
Thank you very much.
Sure.